So what we're going to do, we're going to kick this off, do a little bit of a demo, and obviously there's some Q&A, and which we're going to open up the floor if people are interested to have any questions, right? So first I'll do a little bit of an introduction because we might have a few new folks on the line here. And then we're going to talk about some of the business drivers and obviously a solution/demo overview of how it works and what it does. A bit about Cadac Group. Cadac has been around since 1986, and this year actually, with a lot of coincidence, on my birthday, we're going to be around for 30 years, which is obviously time to celebrate. But the most important thing about Cadac is that we completely focus on the engineering space, which you can see in two major bullet points here. One, we have been a global Autodesk partner, and we have for quite some time now been a platinum partner. And for the folks that are familiar with those types of certifications, out of the, I think, 4,000 or 5,000 partners worldwide, there's literally about 30 or so that have that particular status, which we're extremely proud of. Secondly, we have been developing for the last 15 years solutions based upon the Microsoft SharePoint platform for the engineering space, and that's also one of the reasons why we are a Microsoft Gold partner. So with that, our mission is, and I'll flip through these slides quite quickly. If it has anything to do with digital design information, we would like to be in a position to help our customers. So whether it's design processes, whether it's project communication, whether it's document management / document control processes, that's our bread and butter. And we do that based upon, on one hand, the Microsoft SharePoint platform, and on the flip side of that, the tools provided by Autodesk. Some of the key figures, we roughly do about 35 million euros a year. We've been doing that for quite some time. There's about 200 people or 200 colleagues that in this company. We have different types of specialties. There's a group dedicated to purely document control type of processes, but there's also a group completely dedicated to civil type applications, and other people are dedicated to 3D modeling with inventors. So there's all kinds of specialties within the company. And as you can see within the sort of turnover slide, which quickly indicates that about 30% is based upon our own platform, our own software. About 45% is based upon Autodesk software, and about 26% is roughly is based upon consultancy. So that's who we are. Just a quick overview of our clients, which is a whole range of clients in the engineering / asset owner space. Recently, we acquired a company called Hunt. There's a long-lasting customer like VDOT, ThyssenKrupp Group, more known in Europe, British Petroleum, just to name a quick few here to hand them out. Again, there's a few new people here on the line that might have never heard of us, but one of the main things that we do is that we develop a SharePoint-based solution for engineering document management and engineering document control. So if you're in the business of running large, complex capital projects or a lot of really small projects, then and you're looking at SharePoint or you are using SharePoint and you're trying to figure out how can we use this particular platform to utilize and facilitate the document control part, then please give us a call and we're more than happy to show you what we can do. Based upon that, we're obviously always expanding our product set, and we have invested quite a bit of time over the last 2.5 years in perfecting one part of the solution, combining that with best practices, which we're going to talk about a little bit more during the year as well. But we're also releasing a set of new products this year, and the first one of those is called Cadac Organized Archive, with the sole purpose of I'm running a project is coming to an end, and now I need to do something because I don't want to keep it on this expensive SharePoint platform where the storage might be a little bit more expensive because it's running on SQL, or I want to take it off a Office 365 environment. I want to store it on long-term offline storage for whatever reason, and that's why we're looking at Cadac Organized Archive. 2 other new products, which we can talk about a little bit more, which we're going to talk about more in the future. One of them is called Task Force, and the other one is called CDE. So some of the business drivers, and which I talked about a little bit already. One, obviously, we want to expand on the capability of our document control suite. But secondly, and this is a requirement that we've seen from a number of customers, is we have running projects, but they are done. So what do we do with it? Or we want to take those files from SharePoint and move them into a records management system that we still have up and running. Or we want to do something else with it, keep it available for the next 10, 15 years. We want to keep it searchable, but we don't necessarily want to have it locked in our SharePoint environment with all its capability, which is good, but we need to be able to move the data somewhere else. A third one is something that we've heard before, or more over the last couple of years as well, is at the end of the project, your client might request to say, can you please send me all of the latest as-built drawings? Can you please provide me with all of the handover documentation or commissioning documentation, or whatever the term is that you might be using? But very often you have a request that says, I want to have the latest version of everything, and I need 5 copies, 2 printed out, and 5 CDs, and those types of requirements. So one of the things that we also wanted to achieve is to make it relatively easy to just sort of download all of the information from the SharePoint site, where depending on certain criteria, it's going to download those particular files, right? And those are the 2 major or 3 major elements that we wanted to accomplish with this new product. Platforms that we support, Microsoft SharePoint 2010, 2013, but also Office 365. And for the folks that have been listening in a little bit and following us a little bit, then Office 365 is a bit of for us, it's new, and we are moving way more into the Office 365 app type of development with our whole product suite over the next couple of years, because that's where we think that the future is going, and that's obviously what's also visible in the marketplace. So we need to keep up. The solution that we're offering today, Cadac Organize Archive, it will work with Office 365, obviously. But I do want to stretch that you don't necessarily need any of the previously mentioned software that we have, like Cadac Organize for document control. That's not a prerequisite in order to use this tool, but obviously it works in conjunction with, if so required, right? So let's go into a little bit of a demo and some screenshots and explain what it does and how it works. When it's deployed, it's a relatively simple tool, but extremely effective. Once it is set up, there's going to be a configuration page that people can access through a regular web browser. So you would deploy this solution to one of your servers that you have locally or that you have available somewhere, a Windows server, and then you will have this service running that allows you to configure the environment and set up archiving locations, etc. So on this first page, you can set up where you would like the archive to be stored. In this case, it's pointing to a C drive, but obviously that could be a network storage device or some other type of device where you would like the information to be archived. Secondly, one of the things that you can do is to define different types of profiles. And for the people that are looking at the screen here, one, you can provide the profile with a name. You can tell where the root storage needs to be. And you can see 2 different things here. One is the libraries and lists that you would like to archive. So if you have a fairly large project and one of the libraries in that project is called engineering or transmittals or health and safety documentation, and you could pick and choose by clicking this button here, add a specific list to the archive. But secondly, you can also apply a camel filter. A camel is a little bit technical, but what it allows you to do is to build a query that says every document that is marked as revision 5 for handover, approved by customer, those are the documents that we would like to include. So you can build very complex queries here that allow you to fine-tune what type of documentation you would like to be put in this particular archive and this particular profile. Right? So as part of the profile setup, as you can see here, you can specify these lists and libraries. And once you've done that, you can, those are the two different levels. One, you have profiles, and secondly, you have sites that you can connect to a certain profile. So if most of your projects are all set up in the same manner, you only have to register the profile once, and you say these are the things that we need to do. And once you've set up the profile, you simply connect a particular SharePoint site to that profile, and that's all you need to do. And that's pretty much what this slide is going to show. So let's take a look at what it looks like, and we got a little movie scripted here that's going to walk us through that. So as I mentioned, there is a service that will be turned on and running on that particular server, Windows server. And once that is up and running, you can specify where the archive is located. And in this case, it's on somebody's, in this case, D drive, Cadac organized archives. And you can also specify when the actual archive will be executed, either immediately or at a certain date and time, if you don't want to overload, or not overload, but make sure that people are not bothered with it while they're doing their regular work. Then as part of the setup, there's some generic settings, but then you can also go into a SharePoint site, just copy and paste the URL, and now we're in the part where we can set up a particular profile. So this site, we want to archive it out to this particular location. And once we do that, the system now is going to allow us to select the lists and libraries that we would like to archive out. So in this particular example, we're going to focus on a library which is called engineering. And once we've done that, I can add those libraries to the profile, or I could have set up a camel query, which we're going to focus on in a later movie. So give it a name and then save the profile, and then you can use this profile for later use for many, many different sites as you see fit, right? So the next part that we're going to go into is, which we've shown you a little bit already in the movie, but I still want to stretch out that we absolutely work with Office 365 sites, as well as local SharePoint 2010 or 2013 sites that are both available. That is not an issue at all. So from there, you can also check the archiving status. And the archiving status is going to show you what the title of the archive is, how many items have been archived, what the location of that particular site is, where it's located, and then that's going to show you the history as well. So one of the things that we wanted to accomplish is the ability to, once the archive has run, is to browse and search for information that is available. So if we click on the browse movie, that is quickly going to show us that particular capability. So here we're back in SharePoint, and you can see you can use all of the features that we typically roll out, like the integration with Brava. That's going to show you a preview, and you can view the drawings. Obviously, you can do markups and annotations. But on top of that, what I'll fast forward this a little bit here. The other elements that you can do is, we're going to look at some of the metadata that is associated here, and that's important because even though if you take the project to an offline site, you still want to be able to search the drawing, not just based upon the drawing information, but also based upon the metadata. So in the sample here in the movie, and let's grayed out a little bit now, but in the sample here in the movie, what you're seeing is that those files are in the archive, so I can open up the drawing itself, or the document. Doesn't necessarily have to be a drawing. But secondly, for every file that's in this particular archive, you also can see what we call an MD file, a metadata file, and that's a text file with an XML format that everybody can read and index, where the system is going to be able to find the information you want. So whether you have some type of capability that reads this XML format and then does an import somewhere else, or you use it to index the files on SharePoint, that's completely flexible from that point on. But that's an important part, that we separate out the the files itself and the actual metadata. So those are sort of linked together. Now, from a SharePoint point of view, if SharePoint is set up to index that offline archive, it will show you that you can also download the associated metadata files. So you can see here there's a little, the blue link here, download the associated metadata file. So you can open up the actual PDF from that local search, but you can also take a look at the actual metadata, and it will search and index both and knows that that those two files belong together, which is a huge benefit, of course, because then you sort of maximize the system most. So the last thing that I would like to dive into is related to handover documentation. And handover documentation, obviously, when you're finalizing a project, you will need to, your client will want to receive certain types of documents. And with this utility now, you can, in the SharePoint environment, which we're going to show you, you can simply select, okay, these are the files. They all have a tick box that says document for operations. We're going to take a look at a specific profile, and then we're going to take a look at that only those particular files are being made available. So if I take a look at that quick snapshot here, you can see on the right-hand side that we've marked some documents with DFO as yes, document for handover, for document for operations, and only document for operations, there's I think 46 or so, and those are the ones that we want to archive in this particular example, right? So if we go to our profile, then in the profile itself, we can take a look at the actual query that has been set up to make this happen. So in that query, and this is just a standard Microsoft technology, camel queries, a lot of people are familiar with that. You can save that profile, and in that query specify only select documents if DFO is yes, and don't do anything else. So now we're back into, okay, I want to run the archive on this particular engineering library. So I set up the registration for this library. I select the profile that I would like to use, which is the DFO handover package, document for operations package, and then I can execute this package. We can test the connection, and after it's been tested, I can execute it. Then what the system will do, it will start the archiving process. And once that is completed, we will see archiving 3, 2, 4, 5, whatever the amount is, 46 items in this case. We've just fast forward the movie a little bit here. Once that is completed, we can take a look at what that actually looks like on our file structure. Right. So once I have the files on my local hard drive, obviously then we're back to standard SharePoint, so to speak. I can then take those files, zip them up, put them on WeTransfer, some type of technology, a DVD, do something with it so that our client has access to it. And then everything is available for that particular purpose. There we go. All right. So with that, and this is a very short, short and sweet introduction. The archive projects allow you, what the tool allows you to do is to archive close projects to a very low cost file system versus something that requires more maintenance, is more expensive, runs on maybe a complete farm that you have up and running. You can still use the browse and search the archive project directly from within SharePoint, so you're not losing the functionality. You retain the exact same functionality, and that's what we see as a big benefit. Obviously, if you take the files from that index location, that capability goes away. You can create and deliver certain sets of documentation with just a few clicks, assuming that people are familiar with setting up that particular query, which most companies that we have as customers, they have that particular knowledge, so that shouldn't be an issue. So the benefits are obvious. You can save on storage costs, you can have instant access to all project documentation, and it's going to save you in providing and assembling the handover documentation for a project. Right. So with that, if there's any questions, you can reach out to us. Our contact details are on the website, or you can send an email to Gert-Jan, or for the people that know me, to myself.